Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Sivadavakati Sadma. Shri Guru Charana Padma, Vivadavakati Sadma. Anno Moisa Vadunamate. Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nidishashanavadi Vashakarashatarine Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON, the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace. Avai Sharanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Krishna Paramahamsa Vivedācārya Stotra Shri Shrivan. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Namaste Puti Krishna Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridasa Kur ki jai. Prem se Kava Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopīnāthācārya Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dhama ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Nilachal Dhama ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dhama ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi ki jai. Gandhamayi ki jai. Yamunamayi ki jai. Shri Hariram Sankirtan Devi ki jai. Shri Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. ISKCON Radhadesh ki jai. Shri Radha Gopīnāthācārya Vishakhadevi ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Maharani ki jai. Shri Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Gauranta ki jai. Samavita Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the Samdevulis. All glories to the Samdevulis. All glories to the Samdevulis. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranta. All glories to Shri Gauranta.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Gopīnātha Radha Gopīnātha Radha Gopīnātha Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Good morning. We continue reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Līlā, Chapter 6, Lord Chaitanya meets Radhadesh Goswami. So, just to remind ourselves of what we are reading. Shri Radha Gopīnāthācārya. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on his way to Vrindavan, he stopped at Shantipur and stayed at the house of Advaitacharya. And while he was there, Radhadesh Goswami came to him and spent some time with Mahaprabhu and spent some time. I don't know if it's. And he spent some time there with serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the only desire Radhadesh Goswami had was to stay with Mahaprabhu forever, to have the shelter of Mahaprabhu and to not leave it. But Mahaprabhu said, no, you should go back. You should go back home to Saptagram. And as Prabhupada says in the beginning of this chapter, he says you should be a pounds and shillings man externally. You should behave in your family business. They were tax collectors, but internally be fully renounced. In that part of the Radhadesh Goswami's encounter with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not told in this chapter, it's told in the Madhya Līlā. And there Mahaprabhu tells him, he says, you should go home, you should not renounce right now, because you should not practice markata vairagya, monkey renunciation. He says, we see lots of people who renounce this world like monkeys who live naked in the forest, but do not give up any sense gratification. And so he says, better for you that you go home and first practice the inner renunciation, the inner detachment from things, and just externally keep going in the world. So there will be no sort of hypocrisy and no duplicity. And of course, as Prabhupada emphasizes in his purport, and as we will see in just a moment, of course, Radhadesh Goswami was beyond that already. He would not have practiced monkey renunciation if he had joined Mahaprabhu. But Mahaprabhu was teaching the world through him something very important. And so Radhadesh Goswami goes home, but repeatedly he tries to get away. He tries to run away and join Mahaprabhu, but his family continuously stops him. And Radhadesh Goswami, it's very interesting, whenever he's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, whoever he encounters, everyone loves him. He's the type of person that just everyone becomes immediately attached to. Everyone likes him. He's kind to everyone. He's immensely humble and just an extraordinary person. And so his family doesn't want to let him go. And so his parents arrange for 11 people to look to basically keep an eye on him at all times. 5 of them are guards. So there's 5 people who have to, whose only duty is to prevent him from leaving. But they're smart and they think, okay, well, the guards, he might sort of escape, so let's give him a few more people to watch for or prevent his escape. So they assign 4 servants to him and 2 Brahmins. And so there's 11 people watching all of Raghunath Das Goswami's moves, and every time he tries to escape, they prevent it and bring him back. At one point, he wants to leave, but then there's a Muslim, the former tax collector of Saptagram, who was a Muslim, arrived on the scene because Hiranyadas, Raghunath Das Goswami's uncle, who was with his father, the tax collector of Saptagram, had taken over from this Muslim, but was also embezzling a little money, and I forget exactly the amount, but it's quite a large amount of money that he collects and doesn't pass on to the Sultan, to Hussein Shah, and this Muslim was a little annoyed that he lost his job basically as tax collector. So, and then when he realized what Hiranyadas was doing, he reported him and therefore came to arrest him. But Hiranyadas had fled, so he arrested Raghunath Das Goswami instead and took him away. And so Raghunath Das Goswami was again prevented from leaving. He was there for, I forget the amount of time, but it's quite a period. And every day the former tax collector thought, I'll punish him so that he'll know the crime that's been committed, but every time he came to Raghunath Das Goswami and he saw Raghunath Das Goswami's person, his face and so on, he was just overwhelmed with affection for Raghunath Das Goswami, and he couldn't do it. And finally Raghunath Das Goswami convinces him. He says, well, you and my uncles and my father, you're like brothers. We're all parts of the same community. You engage in the same things, and therefore you should think of me as your son. And the tax collector agrees, lets him go. Raghunath Das Goswami is back home and back to the same sort of schedule of daily trying to run away and daily being caught by his guards and brought back home. At one point his mother despairs and said maybe we should just tie him up, which if your mother says that she's really desperate. But Raghunath Das Goswami's father says, well, what's the point? We can tie him up, but that's not going to prevent him from escaping. His resolve is so strong, and he says, but worse than that is his resolve is so strong because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we see that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu drives people mad, and so ropes will not help in this regard. There's no way we can do this. And then we hear earlier in this chapter how Raghunath Das Goswami then hears that Nityananda Prabhu is in the area, and so he decides to seek shelter of Nityananda Prabhu and ask for his blessing so he can attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He approaches Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu instructs him to organize a big festival for all the Vaishnavas, for all his followers that he brought with him to Parnihati, and we have the famous chipped rice festival where Raghunath Das Goswami organizes the prasadam and brings enormous amounts of food for all the devotees that were there with Nityananda Prabhu. But then as the people in the area hear about the festival, they all decide to come as well, and Raghunath Das Goswami buys food for them as well. It says that there was a platform for the festival, and the devotees were all sitting there, but then the platform was full, so then the people started to crowd around the platform, but then that was full, and then people started sitting on the bank of the Ganges eating their prasadam, but then there was no space there, and people started standing in the Ganga, eating prasadam, honoring prasadam, and Raghunath Das Goswami was financing the whole thing and serving the devotees in doing that. It says then all the merchants in the area realized, oh, there's a big festival going on, and they're all buying chipped rice. So they all came to sell their chipped rice. Raghunathās Goswami bought all them their chipped rice and served it to the devotees. And then once the festival was over, he petitioned Nityananda Prabhu for his mercy, and Nityananda Prabhu addressed all the Vaishnavas there, and he said, well, all of you should now bless Raghunathās Goswami, so he may attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he assured Raghunathās Goswami, he says, yes, you will attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you will attain the shelter of Sarup Damodar Goswami, which means you will be in the very sort of inner circle of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's very characteristic of Raghunathās Goswami, what he does then. Before he leaves, he approaches Raghava Pandit, who was feeding Nityananda Prabhu, and he gives a very large donation to Raghava Pandit, and he says, this is for Nityananda Prabhu, but don't tell him. Tell him only when I've gone. And then he decides that, oh, actually there's more to give, and so he gives, and this. Where is it here? Yeah. Prabhur Shange Jota Mahanta Britya Ashrita Jan Pujite Chahiye Ami Shabar Charan. He says, I want to give money, he said, just to worship the lotus feet of all the great devotees, servants and subservants of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So it's not just Nityananda that he wanted to serve, but then he gives says, as you think fit, give 20, 15, 12, 10 or 5 coins to each of them. So he gives a large amount of money to Raghava Pandit and says, you distribute it to all the Vaishnavas here, the Mahantas, the great devotees, but also the servants and the subservants, the servants of the servants. And this was very much Raghunathās Goswami's mood. But again, he says, don't tell them, it's sort of an anonymous gift, and it's out of his sort of his great humility. It was very, this sort of service to the Vaishnavas was something that Raghunathās Goswami really exemplified. It said, Krishna's Kaviraj describes how when later in his life he moves to Vrindavan, his sadhana consisted of offering 1,000 dandavats to the Lord every day, and 2,000 to the Vaishnavas. So 2,000 times bowing down to the Vaishnavas. That's what he did every single day. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, and that's kind of his mood. It's the service of the Lord can only be done when we serve his devotees as well. And so then Raghunathās Goswami returns home and resumes his attempt to flee. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says that this has been going on for over a year now, that every day he's trying to run away, every day he's brought back. And where we are now, in the verse you have on the board, sorry I lost my page. Yeah, so what happened just before this verse is that one night Jadunandanacharya comes to Raghunathās Goswami, and Jadunandan Acharya is Raghunathās Goswami's guru. He was a disciple of Advaita Acharya, and he lived in he was sort of the family guru of Raghunathās Goswami's family. He lived kind of in besides them. Krishna's Kaviraj says that Yadunandanacharya was actually a very prominent guru in the area. He had Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami in the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita says the number of branches and sub-branches of the branch of Yadunandanacharya. He says, I cannot enumerate. There's so many of them. But Raghunathās Goswami is his most famous disciple, and so. So one night he approaches. Raghunathās Goswami at this point is also no longer sleeping in the house. He's spending every night in the Durga Mandapa, in the place where the Durga Puja happens, which is sort of, it's a covered sort of place, but it's open, and so he's sleeping there. He doesn't want to sleep inside. And so the verse you have on the board is 163. Angane ashiyate hon jabo dandaila Raghunatha ashitabe dandavat kaila Angane ashiyate hon jabe dandaila Raghunatha ashitabe dandavat kaila Angane ashiyate hon jabe dandaila Raghunatha ashitabe dandavat kaila Angane ashiyate hon jabe dandaila Raghunatha ashitabe dandavat kaila Vaishnavis. Angane ashiyate hon jabe dandaila Ashitabe dandavat kaila Angane in the courtyard Ashiya entering Tehon Yadunandanacharya Jabe when Dandaila stood up Raghunatha Raghunathas Ashi coming Tabe at that time Dandavat Kaila offered his respects falling down. Translation. When Yadunandanacharya entered the house of Raghunathas and stood in the courtyard, Raghunathas went there and fell down to offer his obeisances. And I'll just read we'll read quite a few verses today, but I'll just read the translations. One of Yadunandanacharya's disciples had been worshipping the deity, but had left that service. Yadunandanacharya wanted Raghunathas to induce the disciple to take up that service again. So, Temple Presidents, you're not facing anything new. So here we have Raghunathas Goswami's godbrother, whose guru had engaged in worship of the deity, had left. And so Raghunathas Goswami was enlisted. He seemed to have been a friend of him to sort of bring him back to the temple and continue his pujari services. Yadunandanacharya requested Raghunathas, please induce the Brahman to resume the service, for there's no other Brahman to do it. After saying this, Yadunandanacharya took Raghunathas with him and went out. By that time, all the watchmen that were assigned to guard Raghunathas Goswami were deeply asleep, because it was the end of the night. East of the house of Raghunathas was the house of Yadunandanacharya. Yadunandanacharya and Raghunathas talked together as they went towards that house. Halfway along the path, Raghunathas submitted at the lotus feet of his spiritual master. I shall go to the home of that Brahman, induce him to return, and send him to your home. You may go home without anxiety. Following your order, I shall persuade the Brahman. On this plea, after taking permission, Raghunathas decided to go away. So this is his chance. Raghunathas thought, this is the greatest opportunity to go away, because this time there are no servants or watchmen with me. Thinking in this way, he quickly proceeded towards the east. Sometimes he turned around and looked back, but no one was following him. Thinking of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he left the general path and proceeded with great haste on the one not generally used. Giving up the general path from village to village, he passed through the jungles, thinking with heart and soul about the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He walked about 30 miles in one day, and in the evening he took rest in the cowshed of a milkman. When the milkman saw that Raghunath Das was fasting, he gave him some milk. Raghunath Das drank the milk and lay down to rest there for the night. At the house of Raghunath Das, the servant and watchman, not seeing him there, immediately went to inquire about him from his spiritual master, Yadunandanacharya. Yadunandanacharya said, "He has already asked my permission and returned home." Thus there arose a tumultuous sound as everyone cried, "Now Raghunath has gone away." Raghunath Das's father said, "Now all the devotees from Bengal have gone to Jagannath Puri to see Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Das has fled with them. 10 men should immediately go catch him and bring him back." Raghunath Das's father wrote a letter to Shivananda Shain asking him with great humility, "Please return my son." So this is the time when all the devotees from Bengal would be traveling to Jagannath Puri to be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during Ratha Yatra. And Shivananda Shain is the one who's organizing this pilgrimage every year. So they approach him and ask him, "Please, our son is probably with you, so please bring him back." But as we've seen, Raghunath Das Goswami is not with them. He's smart enough to know that this will be the first place his family will be looking for him. So he's going through back roads through the jungle, and as we sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's in a way, the way I was thinking of it is that it's by the mercy of his guru that he's able to escape and attain the. Sorry. We don't know. Krishna's Kaviraj doesn't say. And Raghunath Das Goswami, and his writings which he wrote while he was in Vrindavan so much later, pretty much all of them he offers his respects to Yadunandanacharya, even though he's kind of more, perhaps we think of him more as the disciple of Sarup Damodar Goswami, whose servant he will become, but he always offers his respects to Yadunandanacharya, and this is my guru, so it seems at least the relationship was intact. And of course, I suppose if you lie to be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to attain a position like the position Raghunath Das Goswami had, I'm sure Yadunandanacharya would have smiled at Raghunath Das's cleverness and been glad for what he has attained. But yeah. So Raghunath Das's father wrote a letter to Shivananda Shain asking him with great humility, "Please return my son." In Jankara, the 10 men caught up with the group of Vaishnavas going to Nilachal, going to Puri. After delivering the letter, the men inquired from Shivananda Shain about Raghunath Das, but Shivananda Shain replied, "He did not come here." The 10 men returned home, and Raghunath Das's father and mother were filled with anxiety. Raghunath Das had been resting at the milkman's house, got up early in the morning. Instead of going to the east, he turned his face south and proceeded. He crossed Chhatrabhog, but instead of going on the general path, he proceeded on the path that went from village to village. And Prabhupada has a very short purport here. Chhatrabhog, now known as Chorikari, is in the district of 24 Parganas in West Bengal. It is situated near the celebrated village Jayanagar, Majalipur. Formerly the Ganges or some of its branches flowed through this region. Sometimes Chhatrabhog is misunderstood to have been a village on the river Kangshai Nadi in Benapol. Not caring about eating, he travelled all day. Hunger was not an impediment, for his mind was concentrated upon obtaining shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes he chewed fried grains, sometimes he cooked, and sometimes he drank milk. In this way he kept his life and soul together with whatever was available wherever he went. He reached Jagannath Puri in 12 days, but could eat only for 3 days on the way. So he's been fasting a total of 9 days, while he's traveling 30 miles a day through the jungle. It's quite a physically exhausting task. When Raghunath Das met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord was sitting with his companions, headed by Swarup Damodar. Staying at a distant place in the courtyard, he fell down to offer obeisances. Then Mukunda Datta said, "Here's Raghunath." As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these words, he immediately welcomed Raghunath Das. He said, "Come here," he said. Raghunath Das then clasped the lotus feet of the Lord, but the Lord stood up and embraced him out of his causeless mercy. Raghunath Das offered prayers at the lotus feet of all the devotees, headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami. Seeing the special mercy Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had bestowed upon Raghunath Das, they embraced him also. And then the final verse. Prabhu kohe Krishna kripa balishta shaba hoite, tomar karila vishay bishta garta hoite. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "The mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. Therefore the Lord has delivered you from the ditch of materialistic life, which is like a hole into which people pass stool." Purport. According to the law of karma, everyone is destined to suffer or enjoy according to a certain material standards. But the mercy of Lord Krishna is so powerful that the Lord can change all the reactions of one's past karma or fruitive activities. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically drew attention to the mercy of Lord Krishna. That mercy is more powerful than anything else, for it had saved Raghunath Das from the strong bondage of materialistic life, which the Lord compared to a hole where people pass stool. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his verdict that those addicted to the materialistic way of life are like worms that are living in stool but cannot give it up. A grihavrata, one who has decided to live in a comfortable home, although it is actually miserable, is in a condemned position. Only the mercy of Krishna can save one from such misery. Without Krishna's mercy, one cannot get out of the filthy entanglement of materialistic life. The poor living entity cannot give up his materialistic position on his own. Only when granted the special mercy of Krishna can he give it up. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew very well that Raghunath Das was already liberated. Nevertheless, he emphasized that Raghunath Das's life of material comfort as a very rich man's son, with a very beautiful wife, and many servants to attend him, was like a ditch of stool. The Lord has specifically indicated that ordinary men who are very happy with material comforts and family life are in no better position than worms in stool. And we'll just read Raghunath Das Goswami's response to this as well. Raghunatha mone kahe Krishna nahi jani, tava kripa karilama e ami mani. He said, Raghunath Das answered within his mind, he says, "I do not know who Krishna is. I simply know that your mercy, O my Lord, has saved me from my family life." Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I'll read the verse again because it's Prabhu kahe Krishna kripa balishta shaba hoite tomar karila bashai bishta garta hoite. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "The mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. Therefore the Lord has delivered you from the ditch of materialistic life, which is like a hole into which people pass stool." A little later we'll hear, next week I presume, we'll hear that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking very strongly here, but later he'll temper it a little bit, and he says your uncles are very close to my family, to my grandfather. So I consider them my grandfathers too, and therefore I consider them to be part of my family. So therefore I can joke a little, and I can speak stronger than. But yes, as he says here, the family life of Raghunath Goswami, and by extension his parents and his uncle, are like the hole into which people pass through, which is basically a toilet that doesn't flush. So it's a very strong statement here. And Prabhupada refers in the purport to the grihavrata, those who have whose vows are about their house, which is an allusion to or reference to one of the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj that Prabhupada were very sort of often on his mind. Krishna matir matirna Krishna paratasvato va mito bipadyeta grihavratanam. That those who are grihavratas, those whose as Prabhupada says here, those who have decided to live in a comfortable home, although it is actually miserable, Prahlad Maharaj says, for them, matirna Krishna, they will not have thought, they will not have any thought of Krishna, either by themselves. It will not arise out of their own hearts, out of their own accord, but even parata, even when others instruct them, they will not take to it. And even when there's a combination of the two. Even when there's a combination of the two, even when they're instructed and they might sort of, one would think they would have a change of heart, Prahlad Maharaj says, even this does not happen. Why? Adanta gobhir vishatam tamisram punah punascharvita charvalana. Because they're not in control of their senses, and therefore they've entered the deepest darkness of ignorance, and they're chewing repeatedly, again and again, that which has already been chewed. So Prahlad Maharaj says that this is the condition of material life. We go through life not in control of our senses, and we're trapped in that. We have no way of rising above that, either on our own accord or with the help of others. We just can't do it. We cannot come to Krishna consciousness based on that, because we're so deeply sort of entrenched in our ignorance, so deeply entrenched in our sense gratification, that even as Prabhupada says here, even though it is miserable, we keep going back to it. Even though we've chewed it already, we've gotten whatever enjoyment there is to be had in this material world, we just keep coming back to it, thinking there might be a little more. There might be just a little drop of enjoyment there. But all the time we're just chewing on the dry husks of the sugar cane. As you have the sugar cane, you pass it through the press and you get the juice, and then you pass it again and again and again and again. And in the end, it's just all dry, but you're still hoping for something. And so we're stuck in that, and there seems to be no way out. But as Lord Chaitanya here says, the mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. The mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. Prabhupada in the purport, he says, according to the law of karma, everyone is destined to suffer or enjoy according to a certain material standard. But the mercy of Lord Krishna is so powerful that the Lord can change all the reactions of one's past karma or fruitive activities. So there, we're stuck in that. We have no sort of hope of getting out of there on our own accord. But the mercy of Krishna is stronger than our being stuck in there, stronger than our attachment, stronger than our ignorance, and therefore this is our hope. This is how we can get out of this. And here, Prabhupada says or Mahaprabhu says that it's the mercy of Lord Krishna that lifted you out of that state. And of course, the state of Raghunath Goswami is quite different from most of our conditions, in materially speaking alone. Krishna's Kaviraj says in the beginning of the chapter that the opulence that Raghunath Goswami had was like that of Indra. He was, the family was fabulously wealthy, had enormous amount of servants that did whatever they wanted. There was no lacking in anything. Raghunath Goswami had a wife who apparently was immensely beautiful and devoted to him. And materially speaking, he had everything one could possibly want in this world, and yet he had no interest in it. And so if that state of life is like a hole into which people pass stool, what to speak of ordinary persons' lives, where we don't even have, if that amount of enjoyment is in the eyes of Mahaprabhu, so low, then what to speak of the sort of the common state. But Krishna's mercy is stronger than anything else, and we see in the life of Raghunath Goswami the mercy of Krishna comes through the mercy of his devotees. The mercy of Krishna comes through the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, and then Nityananda Prabhu asks all the Vaishnavas to bless Raghunath Goswami so he may attain the shelter. And so this is the way we can get out of it is by following the example of Raghunath Goswami, serving the Vaishnavas and depending on the mercy of the Lord and the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And this is what Prahlad Maharaj himself teaches. Mahiyasham pada rajobhishekam. How can we get out of that situation? He says we should bathe in the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. We should do everything we can with our entire body, with all our faculties, all our capacities, serve the devotees as a way of overcoming this and receiving the mercy of the Lord. As I was reading these verses, this sort of the mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. That sort of stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it all morning and yesterday, because we don't always have that experience in a sense, or we sort of forget that. We kind of we get stuck in our spiritual life, in our material life. And it sort of seems hopeless that we might one day obtain the sort of the state that Raghunath Goswami had. It's the sort of the level of Raghunath Goswami's realization is something we can never attain. It says we've heard how he's been fasting for most of the journey and just determined to get there. We can imagine, he must be physically utterly exhausted, but he just, went and he seems to have arrived before all the other devotees from Bengal have arrived, who are traveling along the main road and who are traveling in some comfort provided by Shivananda Shain. And one of the first things that Lord Chaitanya does is he tells Govinda, he tells the servant, he said, make sure that Raghunath Goswami eats. And he instructs, Raghunath Goswami, go and bathe in the ocean and then come and have prasadam. And Raghunath Goswami does that, and he eats with the devotees, he honors prasadam with the devotees for 5 days after he's reached Puri. And after 5 days, he decides to go begging for food. And where does he go? In Puri, it's a pilgrimage town, so there are places where you can go and people give prasadam. But he doesn't go there. he goes to the Singhadwara, to the Lion Gate of the Jagannath temple, which is the place where the priests, of the pujaris of the Jagannath temple exit. And it's a place where you can beg, but they're leaving the temple. It's not the normal place where you go for prasadam. And he stands there and he serves, he begs for prasadam, for something to eat there. And then in due course, as we hear, even that he finds too opulent. He says, when I'm there, I become like a prostitute. I see people and I think, oh, this person will give me something, this person will not give me something, and based on that, I respond to them. So he finds the prasadam that's gone off and that's been thrown away, and he gathers the rice kernels, and which becomes poisonous when it's spoiled. But he washes the spoiled parts off until there's a little bit left, and then he eats that, and that is what he lives on. And when he's in Vrindavan, we hear he only drinks a little buttermilk, and that's it. So the level of his renunciation and the level of also his attachment to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to Krishna is something that is just beyond our conception. Yeah, but still we can sort of the way his life is recounted here, and the way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sort of portrays is it's some I mean, we can based on sort of the what happens after he reaches Puri, we can understand that what happened before he reached Puri was not extraordinary either. I mean, he was already an extraordinary person. But the way Prabhupada and Krishnadas Kaviraj and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talk about it is that here's a way which we can relate to it. In some ways, we're like Raghunath Goswami, and we're in sort of a material situation, and we try to get out of it repeatedly, but we're repeatedly brought back and sort of pulled back by the guards of that are our attachments and our minds and so on, and our minds make sure that don't stray too far, come back now and be comfortable here. And so as we practice Krishna consciousness, it seems difficult to get out of that. But as here, what I like about this chapter particularly is just the conviction that Raghunath Das Goswami has, and the resolve and the confidence that one day I will attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And for more than a year, every single day he tries, and he gives everything he has to attain it, and every day he fails. And after a while, you'd sort of think, if that was my case, you'd be like, okay, well, maybe I'll try some later time in the future. It seems like this is not the right time to do it. And but again and again, he tries for it. He goes for it, and he's convinced in the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I like his response, to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu says, Krishna's mercy is stronger than anything else. And Raghunath Das Goswami says, I do not know Krishna, but I know you saved me. And so that's the sort of the conviction we should have in our spiritual life. And there's something sort of humbling about reading about Raghunath Das Goswami and sort of seeing where we are. But there's also something sobering about it. It's kind of, we don't always sort of think of the mercy of Lord Krishna as stronger than anything else. Sometimes we think our attachments are stronger than that. Our ignorance is stronger than that. Our ungratefulness is stronger than the mercy of Lord Krishna. But Mahaprabhu says, no, remember this at all times, that this is stronger. This is stronger than anything else, and this can get you out of it. And it's there's a way in which we can think about that. That we're kind of, we were talking the other day about with the college students at Dina Dale's and Anupama's place, and Shamananda Prabhu and Mother Jayavadra about the sort of the difficulties we have in japa and the difficulties we sort of encounter with the mind, and how difficult it is to control it, and how easy it is to wander, and how easy it is to get distracted, and there's sort of we can sort of be stuck on that, and we can be stuck on our own imperfections, and on our own attachments, and so on. Or we can sort of ignore them entirely and just look to the mercy of the Lord. But kind of the sort of the balanced approach is, in a way, is kind of being aware of both, being aware of our limitations, but also being aware of how Krishna rises above those limitations and can help us to rise above those limitations. And I was thinking of that in relation to Mahaprabhu's earlier teachings to Raghunath Goswami, where he said, don't become a monkey sannyasi, don't become someone who is artificially sort of renounced, who appears renounced but internally sort of still attached. And it's kind of, we sort of have to come to the stage where we're sort of have an honest assessment of who we are and where we're at in our spiritual life, and see our attachments and see our imperfections, but also see the mercy of the Lord, and kind of learn to, not sort of rise to sort of, or jump to the level of Raghunath Das Goswami, thinking we can imitate him, but sort of just honestly kind of says, okay, here's where I am, and here's where I have to go next, basically, and here's how the mercy of the Lord can sort of help me to reach that next stage, because in our spiritual life there's sort of two mistakes we can make. One is to sort of think we are more advanced than we actually are, and we can sort of think that, I can be Raghunath Das Goswami, I can be someone who is fully absorbed in thought of Krishna, and we kind of have the amazing power to delude ourselves that way. to chant japa and be constantly distracted, but think, I'm doing okay, I'm actually not a bad devotee, in some ways. The mind has sort of a extraordinary power to delude ourselves in that way. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur talks about the different sort of stages we go through in our spiritual life, where we take on vows that are stronger or more sort of higher than something that we can achieve. He says, I will not talk to anyone today, and only talk about anything material, anything mundane, and I'll just talk purely about Krishna. And then 5 minutes later, we've lost that already, and we're back to prajalpa, to gramya katha, to village talk. And we take on these vows, and we sort of thinking that we're further ahead than we actually are. We kind of become unsteady in our practice, or in our resolve. We think, I should renounce everything, like Raghunath Das Goswami. I should go to Vrindavan and live there. And then the next moment we think, oh no, it's actually better to be in family situation, and my husband or my wife is a Vaishnava, and I should serve with them. And we kind of keep going back and forth, sort of thinking we're sort of higher than we actually are, and then coming back and then going somewhere else. And but there's another danger too, and that is actually thinking that we can do less than we actually can, and in a sense that's perhaps the more difficult one to face, because we all face the sort of when we start seriously practicing Krishna consciousness, we think we'll be a pure devotee by the end of the year, in December, and but as we sort of progress in our spiritual practice, we kind of realize, okay, that's not realistic, and it's going to take a while. And so the humility kind of will come very quickly, but the other part is more difficult to sort of realize, because it's easy to become complacent and to think, this is where I am. I'm honest about my attachments. I'm honest about my situation, and I know this is how much service I can do. This is how much sadhana I can do, and that's it. But often there's more we can do, and there is more we can do even in our own state. We may not be Raghunath Goswami, but we're also perhaps better than where we are at now, and so it's kind of that's the state we have to overcome as well, to think we're not as fallen as we think we are, in the sense sometimes devotees say, I'm too fallen, I can't do this service, or I'm too fallen, I can't do that service, but that's just sort of often an excuse for our laziness or our complacency. And yes, we shouldn't act like Raghunath Das Goswami, but we should sort of be just sort of slightly uncomfortable, sort of at the point where this is what makes me comfortable in my Krishna consciousness, but I'll be just on the edge of that, just past that, so I can actually grow and not be stuck there. And in doing that, it's sort of that's in a sense what we see with Raghunath Das Goswami. He keeps trying, he keeps putting himself out there, he keeps running away, he keeps making that effort, knowing that the mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else, but yet he keeps going for it. He's not kind of saying, well, the mercy of Krishna is stronger than anything else, so I'll just remain here in my home and serve my spiritual master here and worship in the temple that's there and the home. And in this way, I will attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he keeps sort of going for it. He keeps trying. And there's a big debate in Vaishnava schools as to how we receive the mercy of the Lord. And this is particularly in the tradition of Ramanuja. They're actually split over the issue. There's sort of two sides, two branches amongst the Sri Vaishnavas. And some say that we should be like kittens, where they say that the kitten is helpless. The kitten, when it's just born, it can't do anything. But the mother cat comes and picks up the kitten in its mouth and drags the kitten wherever the mother thinks the kitten should go. So those Vaishnavas say we are like that. We are like the kitten. We're helpless to do anything on our own, but we're fully dependent on the mercy of the Lord, and the Lord will carry us to Him. And there's nothing we can do except recognize our helplessness. But then there's another school, which they themselves call them that, the monkey school. And they says, no, we are like monkeys. We're like baby monkeys. And the baby monkey is, the mother monkey carries the baby monkey from tree to tree and rooftop to rooftop, but the baby monkey hangs on. The baby monkey sort of on the belly, sort of upside down, sort of has to cling on. And yes, the mother will carry the monkey, will carry her child wherever the mother thinks the child should go. But the baby monkey has to hold on. And so they say this is how we should be. We should expect the mercy of the Lord, and we should know that we're fully dependent on the mercy of the Lord. But we also have to act. We also have to make the endeavor. And our tradition is very much the monkey school. Prabhupada often said, we are the God helps those who help themselves. The Lord will give us His grace, and we're fully dependent on that grace, and we are nothing without that grace. But generally, the Lord gives His grace in reciprocating with our own endeavors. We make an effort. We turn to Krishna, and Krishna comes closer to us. And so we shouldn't practice monkey renunciation, but we should be like monkeys, nonetheless. And so we should be like monkeys. We should know that the mercy of the Lord is stronger than anything else and will save us. But in the meantime, we have to sort of make an effort to get out of the hole into which people pass stool. We have to sort of make the effort to climb out of that ourselves, so that we're able to reciprocate with the mercy that we receive. And Yeah, and of course it's difficult because in our life we sort of, you know, we're constantly thrown back onto the hole into which people pass through. We see the unpleasant things in the heart. We see our attachments. But if we're sort of firm in that resolve, then the Lord will help us there. Brahma prays, you know, Tatenu kampam susamikshamana gunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagva purbhir viradhan namaste jiveta samukti pade sadayabhag. That if we continue to act expecting the mercy of the Lord, looking for the mercy of the Lord, but all the time hridvagva purbhir viradhan namaste, continually offering obeisance to the Lord with the heart, speech, and mind. And I'm particularly struck by the heart one. We offer obeisances with the heart. You know, we can offer obeisances with our speech. We offer prayers to the Lord. We chant the Lord's name. We offer obeisances with our body in that we serve the Lord. We bow down to the Lord. But we offer obeisances with the heart. The heart is the seat of our desires, and we kind of nudge our heart closer to the Lord and try and place the Lord there. And Brahma prays, he says, if we do this, if we continuously do this, go through our life, knowing that whatever situation we are in is atmakritam, is caused by ourselves. We have placed ourselves into that hole. And then we will attain the mercy of the Lord. Because Krishna's mercy, the mercy of Lord Krishna, is stronger than anything else. And just to end, there's a very encouraging verse in the 11th canto in Krishna's teachings to Uddhava, where he kind of speaks to this, and it's a verse that's particularly powerful because it's you know, often we read Shastra and we think, you know, this is all beyond us. The sort of the states that they're describing, the lives of these devotees are just so exalted that this seems, you know, unattainable for us, or it sort of doesn't. We sometimes feel it doesn't speak to our immediate sort of, you know, concerns or immediate needs or our own situation. But there's two verses in the 11th canto where Krishna is describing the condition of a devotee who's struggling to become free from material attachments, where he says, Jata shaddho matkatasu nirvinna sarva karmasu veda dukhatmakan kaman parityage pyanishvara. He says that we have a devotee whose faith has awakened in narrations about in Krishna Katha, who's eager to hear about me, he says. Such a person knows that there is no enjoyment in this material life, that Veda Dukhatmakan Kaman, that all kamas, all objects of enjoyments are only sources of misery, and yet Parityage Pyanishvara. He's unable to give it up. He's unable to give up the attachment. He has faith in me, he worships me, and he knows that material life is misery, and yet he's unable to renounce it fully. He keeps coming back to it. But the Lord says, Tato bhajeta mam prita shraddhalur dridha nishchaya jushamanas chatan kaman Jushamanas kaman Dukho darkang chagarhayan. He says he should continue worshipping me. He should not be disturbed by the attachments that he's unable to give up. But he should continue worship me, shraddhalur, with great faith, with conviction, dridha nishcha, with the firm, with certainty that these things will go away, and that the mercy of the Lord is stronger than those things, and will help you, will drag you out of that state. And even though occasionally they might sort of be drawn back to material enjoyment, he says that's all right. but he shouldn't garhayan. He should be repenting of that. He should be repentful of every time he's unable to give up the attachments. But more than that, the first thing actually the Lord says is he should be prita. He should be happy. He should be happy. He should be repenting for his inability to give up attachments, and he should have firm conviction. But above all, he should be happy, and he should know that this will pass. This will pass because it's not just me. I'm the monkey hanging on, but the mother will carry me out of this state and to the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyway, these are just a few thoughts on this Sunday morning. We sometimes, the spiritual life is difficult, but luckily we're not on our own in this. We have the support, the blessings of the Vaishnavas, which will give us the blessings of the Lord, and those blessings are more powerful than anything else. So I'll end here. And sorry, I've gone a bit longer than I should, but. Yeah, we're hoping to be kittens, but we're acting like monkeys, but we're hoping to be kittens. Yes, yes. Yeah, and I mean, there's sort of different images that are sometimes given for spiritual life. The one I like is where we're hammering away at a rock, and it's, if you have a big rock and you have a hammer and you're hammering on it, it seems like you're not, and you're trying to break that rock down into smaller rocks so you can pass, but you're hammering. But it seems like you're not going anywhere. But what's happening is from within the rock starts to crack, but you don't see it from the outside. And so you don't know which blow it is going to be that actually goes and shatters the entire rock. And you don't perceive that. And that's kind of, as you mentioned, we see devotees who are sort of going through their entire life, and then at the end of their life, suddenly they just have this, enormous sort of push, it seems. And that's kind of, suddenly the rock cracks and, there's nothing left of it. And so yeah, that I find that hopeful, that we may not see the progress in a way, but we do know, that there is a progress, and we do. There's kind of, we can sort of go in two ways. We can say, oh, I'm not making any progress, but some, and sometimes it feels that way. But sometimes I also think, well, that's kind of not very grateful to the Lord, because if we look at our lives, wherever we are, and we look, back and where we were, there is something that happened, and it's by the mercy of the Lord that this happened. So there's also an acknowledgement of that yes, the Lord has given me much, the Lord has been kind, and the Vaishnavas have been kind, and so on. So there, it's not as far as I thought I'd be, and not as far as I'd like to be, but still I'm grateful for where I am, and grateful to have the opportunity to keep trying and keep coming back to it. And I think that's sort of part of it too. That we should be prita, we should be happy, but shraddhalu, we should have faith, we should have conviction. And faith means we have faith in the practice of devotional service. We know that it works, and we see it in others, and therefore we should have that faith too, that it works in us too. But it's difficult. Jiva Goswami says that when we begin devotional service, it seems like the attainment of pure love of God seems impossible, and it just is something that's beyond our conception. How can someone be like that? And but he says then when we do Shravanam, when we hear about Krishna and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, hear Chaitanya Charitamrita, that doubt is removed, and we know, yes, it is possible. This is something we can attain. But he says there's still one doubt that remains, and that is it possible for me? We can know, yes, it is possible, but is it possible for me? And Jiva Goswami says that doubt doesn't go away until you actually attain it. So until the point where you attain it, there's a little bit of that doubt remains, that is it actually possible for me to attain it? There's the hope is there, and the conviction in the power of devotional service is there, and the power of the mercy of the Lord, but still sort of that doubt sort of remains there, and that doubt will remain there until the very end. But in the beginning, that's kind of perhaps that doubt is sort of most overwhelming, and we think, it's I can never do it. But as we, progress and we start to see the power of the mercy of the Lord, we become sort of a little more hopeful that it's not possible for me, but maybe by the mercy of the Lord I can attain it. And then we become sort of hopeful in that. We have the hope against hope, and that Rupa Goswami comes where the ashubhanda, we're bound by that hope. We're sort of unable to do anything ourselves, but we're sort of hopeful of that. Mm. Well, it's a strong thing in Christianity. You should suffer, and I think, yeah, for some devotees it comes from there. Maybe not for everyone, but that sort of conviction that, yeah, if I'm not sort of suffering, then I'm not making advancement in a way. But we have hope. We should be happy. That's kind of the yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Just a little bit of appreciation. If we can appreciate it,
Hmm.
then we already happy.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
If we don't appreciate it, then happy.
Hmm. Hmm.
One last thing I'd like to say is that I received this mailing from the devotees who worked so hard for keeping the heater on. And it really entered me strongly that sometimes we are not in the temple for a long time, or sometimes for a few days, sometimes for a few months or years. And then we come back and everything is just, the devotees kept the heater on, The structure is still there, the temple is there, the devotees are there, the worship is there. So I really got the realization that sometimes we have difficulties and we are not here, but the devotees mercy keep the heater on. They keep it going. So I think that to be extremely grateful for the devotees who are so steady and keep the heater on all the time. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice point to end on. So, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. the microphone.
The short report. I mean, it is quite in a line of what we heard so far, but, it's in the line of what we just heard, from Gopīnāthācārya about, trying our best, and then, Krishna is going to help. We called this marathon is Prabhupada's sparrows. So we are trying whatever facilities we have, to continue and, aim to give this facility for people to have the books and to take advantage of what Prabhupada is giving us, and we are so much nourished by that. So we have this little card. I mean, quite some of you got it. This is giving different opportunities for doing something. So then either devotees can pledge books or distribute books or pack books or give blessings. So I can give to those who would like to have, and then you can write in the back, whatever you decided to do, and so they can give it back to me. So that's very nice. So for the last week, we practically speaking did quite the same like the week before. We had Bhagavad Gita's distributed about, this is what, this is about 78, but actually more than that. Anyway, I will just say after the additions. 9 Bhagavad Gitas in Dutch, 78 in French, 24 Higher Taste, 24 Introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Hidden Glories of India 10, Bhagavad Gita in English 10, and then Higher Taste in English 7. So this was like 100, and then plus 30 other books, plus, because I got different things later, so then altogether about 100 books more. So the total is about 300 books, for this week. But it's not the end. I mean, we really want to do much more. And then I will just try, whatever, I can just, you just say that we may think this all we can do, but actually we can do much more. I'm just going to give this paper again to whoever is willing to have. And then please try your best and see what happens. It's all up to Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.